Good evening, and welcome to the Council Advisory Committee meeting of the 14th of December 2020. This meeting is being conducted in COVID-19 protocols in place for social distancing and isolation. The meeting is being conducted electronically using Zoom and is being live streamed on Facebook Live. Town Hall is closed to the public. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website, and the public may send questions at any time during this meeting directly to the recording secretary's email at jwest@kentville.ca. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? As the Council Advisory Committee, we vote as a committee in either to send business forward to the committee, to the council meeting for ratification, return it to staff for further information or review, or defeat the recommendation. I will remind members of council that we should continue to be mindful of our decision-making wheel to make balanced and respectful decisions while adhering to our code of conduct. We will be voting by poll. The chair will call your name and ask how say you. This method permits us to verbally record your vote. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before the meeting commences? All good. CEO Smith, could you please take the roll call?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have all members of council present this evening, and we have directors present. Deborah Kroll is here, Dave Bell, Bev Gentleman, Rachel Beddingfield, and we have staff as well, Jennifer West and Jason Bethune with us, Solicitor Jeff Matart. We're expecting Chief Julia Cicchetto. She was doing some police work just before the meeting began, and I've told her to take her time with that and come when she's able. Thank you. All
right, thank you very much. So we'll move on to approval of the agenda. CAO, we have been provided with the proposed agenda. Do you have anything to add to that agenda?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. In reviewing the agenda today, as we do, you and I, we discovered that item 5A3, which is revisions to the policy statement for the Special Perpetual Reserve Fund, could go directly to council. So we're going to suggest that you remove that from the agenda and that we add it to the January 25th council meeting as an item of new business.
Perfect, thank you. All right, under item 10, the in-camera, the items will be reordered and renamed for greater clarity, and a new one will be added. So 10A should read personnel matter, CAO recruitment. Item 10B should read property, River Street property purchase extension. 10C should read property, downtown infrastructure proposal. Item 10D should read property, Mike's Clothing. Are there any further additions or deletions to this agenda? Seeing none, I would call for a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder? Paula, Councillor Huntley, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on to approval of the minutes. You have before you the minutes of the November 9th, 2020 CAC meeting. Does anyone have any changes? I have a couple. The first item is under the roll call. It should read Councillor Craig Gerard as opposed to Deputy Mayor, as we had no Deputy Mayor after the election. Under items, declaration of conflict of interest, Councillor Savage recused herself from only item 5B, not item 5A. On page 4, the motion should receive accept reports, not receive reports. Under page 5, in the correspondence, direction was provided to the CAO to request staff review and provide a report to council at a future CAC meeting, as all those items of correspondence had some issue that staff was going to review prior to bringing it back to us. On page 7, the recess for the special council meeting, it was moved by Councillor Maxwell and seconded by Councillor York. And the motion to adjourn the special council meeting belongs in the special council meeting minutes and not this one. And on page 8, the motion to adjourn, it was moved by Councillor Savage, and the time should read 9:05 as opposed to 7:32. And there being no further changes, those will be annotated and added to the electronic meeting file. Moving on to our Councillor Savage, certainly.
Correspondence, section 6, page 7.
Okay.
I missed what you said there. So there are a number of items of correspondence.
So on page 5.
Yes.
The correspondence, there should be a note before listing the correspondence that the CAO was going to send this to staff and that we would be provided with the information at a future CAC meeting.
For all of those items?
For all of those items, yes.
A
Yes.
through F. Okay. Thank
Exactly.
you for the clarification.
You're welcome. All right, we have 2 presentations this evening. The first presentation is the Valley Regional Enterprise Network with Jennifer Tufts, the CEO. And our second one is the Kentville Historical Society with Carol Goodwin. Each of our presenters has 10 minutes. As a council, you may ask any questions that you wish with regards to the presentation that the presenters have made. And as far as decision making, we will, the CAO will be speaking to us on the matter of the Kentville Historical Society. So we provide you with 10 minutes. Jennifer, I see you're up and you're probably ready to go. I'll hit the timer once you start talking.
Okay, thank you. Jason, I'm not sure. I think Gerard is in the waiting room or trying to get in, but I'm going to start my presentation just to kick it off. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can everyone see that okay? Yes, I see a nod. Perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me here to provide not just an overview of the Valley Ren, but also to provide you with an update on our programs and services. So I'm going to make this a full screen here. Great. So for those of you that are new to the role as counselor, I wanted to provide a brief overview of the Valley Regional Enterprise Network. So we were incorporated in March of 2014. There are 7 regional enterprise networks throughout the province that are all leading a collaborative approach to economic development and supporting business growth. What we do really can be summed up in 3 words. We plan and we inform and we connect. And we do that by developing, implementing, and monitoring a regional economic development strategy that reflects the provincial, municipal, and First Nation economic development priorities. We inform partners and stakeholders about regional opportunities and challenges and about our local business climate. And we serve as a facilitator and connector for business. We work with them to identify solutions to challenges and to capitalize on opportunities. I just wanted to put up a map of all of the regional enterprise networks throughout the province of Nova Scotia, just so you can get a context of where we are all located throughout the province of Nova Scotia. And just to let you know, the Cape Breton Partnership administers 2 regional enterprise networks on the island. So we are funded by municipalities whose contribution is matched by the province of Nova Scotia through the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Our municipal funding partners include Glooscap First Nation, the municipality of the County of Kings, West Hants Regional Municipality, and the towns of Berwick, Kentville, and Middleton. We are governed by a liaison and oversight committee made up of representatives from our municipal, First Nation, and provincial funders, and by a board of directors that are made up of business leaders from throughout our geographic region and across diverse industries with a regional focus in mind. We also adhere to an intermunicipal services agreement with our municipal partners and a contribution agreement with the province of Nova Scotia. So I want to highlight a number of our programs and services and also highlight some of the opportunities that we have ahead. First off, I want to talk about our Business Now program. So RENs concentrate on business retention, expansion, and investment and creating better conditions for businesses. We provide one-on-one customized supports to businesses of all sizes across all sectors. We assess businesses' needs, provide navigation to resources and supports, provide referrals, provide support for startups, provide peer-to-peer opportunities that are all specifically tailored to small and medium sized enterprises. Because we offer supports customized to the needs of the businesses in our region, the supports we provide are very varied. So I've listed some here, from program navigation, business to business connecting, business growth expansion support, startup support, all the way to market research and access to training and everything in between. So we worked with 77 businesses in 2019-2020. 36 of those were startups, 33 were existing businesses, and 8 of those were community enterprises. To date, in 2020-2021, we are working with 54 businesses to date. 20 of those are startups, 31 are existing businesses, and 3 are community enterprises. What I wanted to note was that we've actually started a business retention and expansion program. We are implementing this strategic BRE outreach program to support and identify opportunities for businesses in the Annapolis Valley region, and also use it as a recovery tool in all of our recovery efforts. Next, I'd like to talk about the Connector program. It is a networking program designed to put newcomers and recent grads directly in touch with local business and community leaders to help them build their professional networks. The program focuses on connectors, who are the business and community leaders, and the connectees, who are the newcomers or recent graduates in our area. The program quite simply matches connectees and connectors based on skill sets and career aspirations. They connect and they meet, and the connector refers 3 additional connectors for the connectee to help expand their network. So in 2019-2020, we worked with 33 connectees, 17 connectors, and since the inception of the program, we have actually helped secure 26, those connectees secured 26 jobs. And we're always looking for any new connectees and connectors. So if you know of anyone in your region that would be a great fit for the program, please let us know. In 2020-21, we already have 12 new connectees, 15 new connectors, and just in this fiscal, there's been 2 jobs found to date. Next, I want to talk about the Valley Manufacturing Task Force. So we have been engaging with leading manufacturers in our region through the Valley Manufacturing Task Force since the summer of 2018. The goal of the task force was to identify and gain consensus on the top 3 challenges related to the sector in our region, and to collaborate on strategies to address those challenges. I wanted to highlight a few of the activities from 2019-2020. We held a Manufacture Your Future showcase to highlight all of the opportunities that exist in the sector, including a video we produced, which can be found at the YouTube link embedded in the presentation. We held a continuous improvement workshop in partnership with ACOA and NSBI for local manufacturers. And we are also in the process of partnering with NSCC to develop a contemporary leadership training program for manufacturers, and the curriculum is currently being developed right now. In January, we were excited to have manufacturers in the Valley working together to help each other in continuous improvement collaboration. Cross-functional teams were created with local expertise to assist companies to address solutions to a problem such as product flow issues, cost reduction, quality issues, safety issues, what have you. And we're already working with an additional company for January of 2021. Next, I want to talk about regional marketing. So we are working in partnership with the Annapolis Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Valley Business Leaders Initiative to create one comprehensive marketing campaign for the region. We formed the partnership to help promote the region from a business and labor force attraction, residential attraction, and tourism attraction standpoint. In 2019-2020, the creative and brand guidelines were completed. We developed a website and we're ready to go into market, but unfortunately the COVID-19 situation had us do a little bit of a shift in our strategy. And really, we wanted to target the sector that was mostly hit for our region, which was the tourism sector. So to assist that sector, we implemented a tourism campaign through August to October and are now developing a Live Here campaign. The brand really is a tool that all three of our organizations, and not only our organizations, but anybody out there that wants to use this to help promote the region. I wanted to take a moment to talk about some of the opportunities that we have ahead that I'm really excited about. We are in the process of creating a regional workforce development strategy. This strategy will research and develop recommendations to address emerging labor market trends and provide actionable solutions for talent attraction and retention in our region. This strategy will be built on the foundation of engagement with all the stakeholders in our region. And I'm happy to say that we issued an RFP in September, and through the work of our Regional Economic Recovery Task Force, we have a workforce supports response team, which is made up of all of the workforce supports organizations in our region who helped us evaluate the proposals that came in. And we have successfully contracted the proponent who will work on this. And we've had our initial kickoff meeting, and the strategy development will begin in January. So we're very excited about that. We have been working hard to develop tools needed for investors in our region. We have updated our website and are in the process of having a regional economic profile and sector profiles created for the region. Again, we also posted that RFP in September, and we have also successfully contracted the proponent, and we have our initial meeting with them this week. So another program that some of you might not have heard about is the STAR program. So it actually stands for Strategic Tourism for Areas and Regions. We were ready to move ahead and forward with this program, which is an ACOA-led program. Really, it's a step-by-step process to support economic growth in large tourism regions in Atlantic Canada. The program uses vetted consultants to give the region an assessment of the current tourism situation, an inventory of tourism assets, and develops a strategic regional tourism plan. Unfortunately, it was delayed due to COVID, but I'm very, very happy to say that we have successfully submitted our application and proposal last week. So now we are just in the waiting stage to see if we are successful in that application and proposal, and fingers crossed that we will be working on that in early in the new year. In regards to the Nova Scotia REAP or MIT program, so REAP stands for Rural Entrepreneurship and Acceleration Program. We were happy to take on the facilitator role for this particular project. This is a pilot project in cooperation with the Massachusetts Institute for Technology, or MIT. It is the first of its kind, and our regional team will explore local strengths, create the right conditions for economic growth and innovation, and implement a project to help invigorate our community. So this particular project, there are 5 regions that were identified to go through this particular MIT program, and we were lucky to be one of them. So we are the facilitator for the Valley team. Our team champion is Wayne St. Amour, who is a principal for NSCC in our region. And we have been working over the summer, as again, it was delayed due to COVID, but throughout the summer, we've actually formed our team. So our team is full. It's full of 10 members who are made representative of 5 different categories: government economic development, corporate, entrepreneur, risk capital, and post-secondary. And we're really thrilled to kick off the program with all of the other teams in Nova Scotia at the end of January. And finally, we are in development of our new strategic plan. So again, that was another RFP that was posted in September. We have successfully contracted the proponent. We had our initial kickoff meeting today. And so stay tuned. There will be lots of consultation process from January to March in the new year. And if you would like to have any input into what the REN is working on over the next number of years, please stay tuned for those upcoming opportunities to connect into that. I just wanted to shift focus a little bit to explain what we've been doing since the pandemic. So not only have we seen businesses pivot as a result of the pandemic, we've also done the same. Phase one really for us was very early in the pandemic. And it was really all about information distribution of all of the supports and resources available to businesses. We very quickly created a web page with links to access all of the information pertaining to those business supports, webinars, frequently asked questions, etc. And we continue to update as information becomes available and the programming has changed and either closed or opened again. Phase two was really about program navigation for us. So we provided support to all businesses that reached out for resources and information. And finally, phase three is really about recovery. And that's where we formed our Regional Economic Recovery Task Force. So since the middle of May, we have formed a Regional Economic Recovery Task Force and response teams. We have been leading this regional coordinated approach to recovery. We've created a recovery structure. We've collaborated with stakeholders on the creation of a recovery plan for our region, and now we are implementing that plan. So at the top, we have what we consider to be the local leadership level. So it's made up of municipal, First Nation, provincial, and federal stakeholders. The mayors and the CAOs sit on that. And then we've created these response teams. So we have one team that is completely full of all of the business support services in our region. So the organizations like Hans King CBDC, the Cater Entrepreneurship Center, our chambers of commerce, our business associations, our post-secondary representatives, as well as any municipality that has a staff member that's working on economic development in any way, shape, or form. We've also pulled together a team that is all of the workforce support organizations in our region. So those provincial supports like the Nova Scotia Works and the Labor and Advanced Education, all of our local workforce supports like PeopleWorks and Community Inc., our immigration supports like ISANS and YReach, and again, our post-secondary institutions. And then we also created a third response team, which we call sector and employer development. We've never pulled this kind of a group together, but really it was all of the sector supports that were out there, like Digital Nova Scotia, Tourism Nova Scotia, Excellence in Canadian Manufacturing, and all of our major impact employers like 14 Wing Greenwood and Michelin. So we've since collapsed that team, and anybody that was engaged in that team, we've filtered them into our other teams. Finally, as I'm probably nearing the end of my time, I really wanted to just focus in on the activities of our Regional Economic Recovery Task Force. So since I created this presentation a couple of weeks ago, we've had more meetings to date since this, but 44 meetings have been held to date, and there are 47 organizations that are represented on this Regional Economic Recovery Task Force in our various levels. And I see I've put COVID-29, so I guess that's a morphed version, but it's actually, we've created the COVID-19 resources website. We created early on and are reopening the Annapolis Valley Guide for Businesses. We also created a Finding Childcare Guide for employers because that was a recurring theme that came up in the beginning. We've done lots of recorded information sessions to help share the resources that exist in our region. We create a task force newsletter that's made up of all of the information related to all of the organizations that exist in this task force, and we send it out about every 3 to 4 weeks. We share Valley Victories, which are really businesses, organizations, charities, individuals that are doing really, really great things since the pandemic has hit. We usually highlight at least one a week. So if you know of any, please let us know. We have been connecting everybody on this task force with all of the information related to broadband and internet initiatives. This is another recurring theme that has come up, and access to internet and how we can help with that. We've also just recently implemented an Act Local campaign. So really it's a buy local campaign, but it's really more than a buy local campaign. It's however you support local. So if it's buying and supporting from our local businesses in that way, that's great. But maybe you can't do that. Maybe it's about volunteering for a local charity, or maybe it's simply about sharing all of the wonderful businesses that we have here and the opportunities to shop with all of your family and friends. It's really about however you can support local. So we've been doing videos, we've had ads on radio since the end of November. We're highlighting businesses in videos, and we're really just sharing as much as we can. And we also distributed 35 flyers in the flyer distribution service, just so that we can get those people that were not online. As a result of the Act Local campaign, we know that one of the big things with businesses was how can we help them promote their online shops, whether they have created one themselves, or they have a Shopify, or they're using social media to sell their products. So what we've done is we've created sort of a phase 1 online directory that is on our Act Local webpage, which you can find on the Valley Ren website. But our long-term goal is actually creating a unique platform that would have a really great user customer experience, where you can search for businesses by location and by product and service and by business name. So we're actually working with some partners right now to potentially have one developed that would be a provincial platform, which would be really great. And then finally, our focus for the task force in January will actually shift to one of resiliency, and really helping develop tools that will prepare businesses should something like this happen in the future, whether it be a pandemic, whether it be a weather-related issue, or whatnot. So that's where our focus will shift in the new year. So I think that's where I want to stop. I know that's a lot of information, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I apologize for all of the information that I just spoke about, but I wanted to touch on as much as I can. So Gerard, I see you there. Is there anything you wanted to just mention before I turn it back over?
No, that was great, Jennifer, and just thank you for the opportunity for us to be here tonight with you, council members and Mayor Snow. And if there's any questions, we'll be glad to answer those.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Jennifer, you did go over your time, but I knew that this was important, and especially where we've got new members of council and, folks that are very interested in what's going on. So we've got a couple questions. Hands are already up. So I'll ask Councillor Zabian to go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Jennifer, for the presentation. Just have two questions. The first one is, I noticed the town of Wolfville's not one of your partners. Were they a partner? And if so, what happened there? And the other thing is, wondering how much each municipal unit contributes towards to be a partner, what their contribution is, if you can give me some information on that. Thank you.
Sure. So yes, the town of Wolfville was involved in the REN for the first few years, and now they are not. This 2019-2020 would have been the first fiscal year that they were not involved with the REN. I apologize, it was prior to my time in this role. So I think there's probably a number of reasons why, but at the end of the day, we would love to have them back on as a partner. In terms of the contribution agreements, the funding contributions, so it is a formula based on population and uniform assessment. So based on those two things, it gets plugged into a formula and it spits out a number. I can't begin to explain to you what that formula actually it looks like, but so it just varies. So the highest contributing partner is the municipality of the County of Kings, and they're in around between close to the 160,000 mark. And then it varies down through there. So West Hants Regional Municipality is around the $50,000 to $60,000 mark. Kentville would be next. I believe it's around 24,000, 25,000. The town of Berwick and town of Middleton are very similar in nature. They're below 20. And then Glooskap First Nation is 7,500.
Thank you.
I apologize. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I hope that's okay.
fine. You did good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Jennifer, thanks for the presentation. It was great and nice to see the REN pivoting as you've done with COVID. That's fantastic. I just have a question about the connector program. So I think you had said there were 26 jobs secured. What sort of jobs are those, Jennifer? Are they sort of entry level jobs? Are they management type jobs?
They're all over the place.
Okay.
It's really based on the skill set and career aspirations of the connectee. So I know that there have been connectees that have gone right into different sectors, not at all entry-level positions. I can probably get you a little bit more information. I don't know the in-depth details. I don't have those right in front of me. But for the most part, they're not entry-level positions because we're matching them based on their skill sets.
Okay.
So it's really about finding the best appropriate match of a connector. Sometimes it takes some looking depending on the skill set or where they want to go. Say, for instance, they want to be in aquaculture. We have had people, connectees that were interested in that particular field. So it's really about finding the appropriate people to match them with. We all know that labor is an issue right across the board, no matter what sector you're in. So we've been really lucky to match them with the appropriate people that actually have openings.
Okay, that's great. Great work. Thanks very much, Jen.
Are there any further questions? All right, it doesn't look like there are any, Jen. Thank you very much for being here this evening. We appreciate the presentation, and maybe at some point in the new year when we can all sit in a room, you could come and actually take some time with us and look over the different programs that you have, and I think there's probably actually people on our council who would really love to be part of your connector program. So I'll just throw that little tip out there. I know that I have enjoyed being on the regional task force and the amount of information that we get, and just the fact that I can take that information, walk downtown, and talk to business people about programs that are out there. So thank you very much.
No, I'm happy to. I would love the opportunity to come and chat further. I know it's hard in these presentations just to give kind of snippets, but I would welcome that opportunity. And Mayor Snow, I just like to say, on behalf of the Valley Run Board and staff, your role in the Liaison and Oversight Committee, we're very, very thankful to have you sitting on that. And I welcome the new representative as well. So looking forward to that.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Enjoy
All
your
right.
evening.
Good evening. So good evening, Carol. Wonderful to see you here to do the Kentville Historical Society. I'm going to give you the party line that you have 10 minutes, but I want you to know that Jennifer went over time. So I know that what you're presenting is important, and it's good information that people should have in their I'm going to say their back pocket, and that's so. I will put my timer on, and if you go too far past the time, I'll give you the old hook.
I'll do my best to get you guys back on track.
All right, thank you.
So first of all, before I start, I just want to say thank you to this entire group of counselors. And as someone who lives in the town of Kentville, every time there's an election, I'm just filled with gratitude that people step up and do this work. And so it's my turn to step up for the Historical Society and talk to you tonight. So historical societies, as you all know, are champions of heritage, and we research it and we preserve it the best we can, and we promote it. And in 1888, the very first mayor of Kentville was John King, and he prepared the town's first statement of accounts. And that was the very beginning of this town of Kentville. And that document is on display in our Heritage Center. And we got it when in 2017, Mayor Snow got an email from Angela King, who was his great-great-granddaughter. And she had his personal documents that had been passed down through generations in the family and wanted them to be safe and felt that they belonged in the place where he had served as the very first mayor. And so it was the perfect impetus for a Kentville Historical Society to be formed. And in the beginning, it was with Councillor Pulsiver, and several other of you who are here tonight also went forward with that. And there were interested townspeople that all came together. And it became a labor of love for quite a large group of people now. Angela shipped all of her documents to Lynn, and work began on preserving and displaying those. And so the originals are at the Heritage Center, and they do tell the story of Kentville's beginnings. And it's fascinating to read Mayor King's writings, because what comes through there is his love for the town of Kentville and what he accomplished being mayor. So I'm looking forward to Sandra's documents in future. Since our incorporation as a nonprofit in August of 2017, we have accomplished a lot. And in particular, since we were able to acquire a lease for the former VIA station with support from the town council. So we had a 2-year lease for our building that expires on December 31st of this year. And the Kentville Heritage Society held a grand opening in the middle of May of 2019. And it was a pretty dismal day, cold and gray, but we had over 100 people in attendance. And even with COVID, we've had over 300 signatures in the guest book. In the first year, we had about 360 visitors from all over North America, really. So we started with very minimal funding, but we raised money from selling tickets on historic painting, and we've collected membership fees. And so our first year lease of $750 was paid that way. Right now, our costs are manageable, and we're a nonprofit society, so we work really hard to fulfill our missions and goals. And our lease now with the town is $1,500 a year. And we also pay insurance because we're open to the public, and the costs that are involved with creating displays at the Heritage Center. So we have received grants from other organizations, and we are very appreciative of the annual grant that we get from the town to support our work. And currently we're selling calendars on KCA Through the Years as our fundraiser for this year. We've done a lot of projects in the last 2 years. One of the ones I want to tell you about is the Voices of Kentville. So we've been able to work in collaboration with Professor David Duke at Acadia University, and he teaches history there. And he's very interested and likes to help with our projects, and his work has been incredible. So we've been able to install 5 storyboards that his students researched and wrote, and those are on posts that surround the Heritage Center, and a lot of people stop and read those, and you can hear the conversations when they walk away. Now, I didn't know, did you know that? Or they'll go and look at places that are represented on the boards. So we worked over 2 years with Dr. Duke, and the Voices of Kentville project was where longtime residents of Kentville, a year of men and then a year of women, were selected, and they were interviewed and asked all kinds of questions, and they talked about their life growing up and living in Kentville. And those interviews were recorded and digitized, and the transcripts of those are at the Heritage Center. And the amazing amount of information came out of that. We've got an active Facebook page with about 1,200 followers, and our website is ready to launch. If you haven't been able to visit the Heritage Center, we've got 3 display rooms and a lobby area. And the lobby area focuses on our old Kentville buildings and streetscapes, and the photos of all the mayors are displayed there. And we've got a Kentville sports room and a Dominion Atlantic Railroad room. And the other room is used for evolving and changing exhibits. So this year we featured the history of KCA, and we plan to carry that exhibit over into next year due to popular demand, because a lot of people who were hoping to come and had been in contact with us weren't able to travel here this summer. And so they're actually planning get-togethers with classmates and small reunions in the upcoming year. So I'm here really tonight to ask that our lease be renewed for a 5-year period, and that the amount of our lease would stay the same. I really think that we do provide an important service to the town, and we're sort of like an annex of Town Hall in terms of ferreting out information about Kentville and making sure that people can access it. We have 50 or so members, and we hold membership meetings open to the public with guest speakers. Right now, Kings Riverside Court offers their accessible space as a location to do that. So our mandate's always been to preserve Kentville's history. And the group really is just a group of history enthusiasts that love their town and love learning more about it and want other people to be able to know what we find out. And so we'd like a 5-year lease with no increase and in the amount. And this is really the only way that we're going to be able to put Kentville's history in the forefront. And it's up to you really if we get to carry on and celebrate our past in this way. So we've had all kinds of visiting groups that have come in, even this summer when things were loosened up a bit. The University Women's Group from Acadia came in, and they were just incredibly impressed and spoke really positively about the importance of the interchange of history between neighboring towns. And we had a small group of visitors from Halifax who came to the Valley specifically to visit the Kentville Heritage Center, and they were amazed at what they found on display there. And so they felt it was really well done. And of course, Burton Russell is a well-known local sports historian, and he felt that when the Kentville Historical Society opened their Heritage Center a couple of years ago, one of the main focuses was on our sporting history, and that has been a major motivation for him to move on and write his latest book, which is on, of course, everybody's Christmas wish list. So that's all the information I want to give you tonight. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And look, I didn't take 10 minutes.
No, you didn't. That's wonderful, Carol. Thank you so much. And we do see a hand up here. So Councillor York.
Hi, Carol. Thank you for
Hi
your
there.
presentation.
Thanks.
I was wondering, you engaged a lot with the university community. Have you engaged with the KCA school community through the social studies curriculum? They have
we have reached out to them, and
Right.
we were hoping to have a lot more interaction with them, and especially because they're fairly close, and we were hoping to be able to bring students into the center and bring the center into the students. I think really that the early discussions of that were just really starting to solidify when COVID came.
Right.
So, everything's been put on the back burner, and yeah,
Right.
we definitely hope to move in there and make sure. As someone who grew up going through KCA and hated history, I want to make sure that the kids at KCA understand that history is about memorizing facts and dates, and that it's the stories of people, and in particular their own families. And yeah, we want to get in there and make sure that they get to see that they're all a part of it.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Maxwell. You're on mute.
Unmute me. All right, there. Thank you very much. Carol, thank you so much for your presentation. It gave us a really good outline of the inception of the Historical Society and all the different projects and so on that you've done. I want to take a minute just to commend your board and for the commitment and the time that it's taken to get this society up and running. That's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of steps in the process, and for your board to stick with it and do this is just, I think, just amazing.
Yeah, they're a great group.
It is. I've been into the Heritage Center several times since its inception, and I'm always constantly amazed at the changes that take place and how much growth that there has been over the years. And, you know, I would encourage any of my fellow counselors and so on around this screen here to get in. If you haven't been in during this season, you know, you really need to get in and see what this group has done.
We'll be happy to unlock the door for you, and so that you can have a safe visit.
I was hoping you would say that, because I think when we make decisions, we really need to be informed, and that's a good way to start. Yeah. As a lifelong resident of Kentville and speaking from my generation, you know, there were many of us very hurt by the destruction of many of the historical buildings in our town. We've lost a lot from my childhood right through to now. The ones that come to mind right away, of course, are the old KCA building and the railway buildings, especially the
Wouldn't that have been a good market building?
Yeah, especially the roundhouse, which I think people all over the country were pleading to have that one saved, and it wasn't. You know, I feel good that as a council previous, we were able to be involved in getting you started with some of the projects and get that up and running. And I know that our citizens are very, very happy. You've had lots of donations, and I think now we have a group that can advocate for the preservation of any other buildings in town that become you know, kind of heading for a chopping block or whatever. So you know, for me, I feel so good about the inception of this society, and I just want to thank all of you that have been involved. So thank you.
Thanks, and thank you too, because I know that you and Craig were two of the early counselors that helped get that together. So thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Carol, for the presentation. The Voices of Kentville. I'm very interested in that. Was that something, when you say it was recorded and transcribed, did they videotape, or was it just a?
It was audio recorded. We
Audio.
didn't want, because they were elderly residents that were part of that project. They were quite comfortable sitting down with students with a tape recorder, you know, an audio recorder. People don't say what's on their mind when they're being filmed.
Do you have plans on doing more of
Yes,
the Voices?
We hope to do more, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Carol, for that. I just want to echo what Councillor Maxwell said. I think it's a great setup, and I had the privilege of visiting a few weeks ago with my two girls, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So just want to thank all of you for your hard work.
Thanks.
All right, Carol, thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for the time.
You're quite welcome. And CAO, you wanted to fill us in on some details of the request.
Yes, I wanted to say I disagree with all of you about the value. No, I wasn't going to say that at all. I've been to the museum and it's wonderful. The volunteers are committed, working harder than I am actually. I should have had the report to recommend our action on the lease ready for you tonight, but because of staffing and a few other things, I hope to bring one to January CAC. So Carol, you can pay attention on January CAC and see whether we've responded effectively to your request.
Yep. But I always pay attention.
It seems to be a relatively straightforward request to extend the lease that we have in place, and we'll give that some attention over Christmas and try to be ready for CAC and then January Council to approve it. Thank you.
Good night, Carol. Or I guess you'll still be watching us, it's just we won't see you. All right, moving on to our department reports and recommendations. The directors have provided their reports for our review and are present if there are any questions. CAO Smith, could you please introduce our department reports and recommendations?
Thank you. The directors are all here. I think I'm going to stand in for Lindsay when we come down to the Community Economic Development one. But other than that, Deb is getting ready to go on vacation. But before she does, we got her to get all her homework done. So here she goes.
Thank you very much. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday season. We're looking at the finance report for the month ended November 30th. That's the very first report that I'm presenting tonight. I'm going to go through it in very high points. I hope you've had a chance to give it a glance, but I will highlight a couple of important things. We're looking at, on the revenue side of the ledger, we actually received a large sum of money from the province of Nova Scotia. We received $189,973, and it's related to the Provincial Safe Restart Municipal Program, which is going to help offset lost revenue, PPE purchases, and other COVID-related expenses that the town has had to incur in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We also received $83,200 from the province of Nova Scotia, and it's called Safe Restart Transit. And this is funds that are to be placed in, or that are being placed currently in reserve for King's Transit Authority for the same type of purpose, the lost revenue that they may have had in 2020, as well as any expenditures that they've had to incur as well for COVID-19. The partners got together. We've had very little financial information from King's Transit. We just got something late today. I'm on vacation. I forget this is Monday. Sorry. We received something late last week, and the partners decided that the best plan for that money in the short term was to place it into operating reserve until we have more financial information from King's Transit. So those are the two big items that you see in the revenue stream. On the expenditure side, under transfers to reserve, the amount has increased significantly there because I've booked the transfer to the operating reserve for King's Transit. So those are the only two highlights on the operating fund that I wanted to bring to light. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our taxes, outstanding taxes. At November 30th, we had 98.6% of the 2021 levy collected. This compares to last year's figure of 96.5%. The total property tax outstanding at November 30 is $151,034, and this compares to last year's figure of $341,299, which equates to 98.4% collected overall, and that compares to last year's figure of 96.4%. I also want to draw your attention to Schedule G, which is the town's capital investment plan for the year 2021. This program has been progressing. You'll see some withdrawals in a few moments from our reserves to fund some of this capital work. At the end of November, we have recorded $1,120,328 as capital, which is about 52.5% of the program. So those are the highlights of the report. You can read the rest at your leisure. If you have any questions, I'm available. That's my report. And I guess, do I just move on?
Thank you, Director Kroll. Are there any questions on this report for the director? There being none, moving on.
Okay, the next report is the projection report extrapolated to March 31st, 2021. And this is with the information that we have at November 30, 2020. And there's a big swing this month. In my report, we moved from a deficit position of $80,400 into a small surplus position of $35,900. It's a swing of about $116,300. And the bulk of it comes from what I just spoke of, $273,200 is increased in conditional transfers related to the provincial safe restart, which the town got for approximately $190,000, along with the transit safe restart of $83,200. We discounted some of the revenue streams this month further. The arena has been discounted of an additional $50,000. Overall, we've discounted the revenue for the arena for ice rentals by $72,500. On back check revenue, we've discounted that an additional $9,500. The total decrease from our budget for back check revenue at this point in time is $84,500. On the expenditure side of the ledger, we had some savings. We have legislative down $5,000 because the election expenses did not come in at budget. That's good news. We have had some insurance claims and legal charges related to the insurance claims. Under law enforcement, increase there of $10,000 in legal, and in transportation, at the same thing, around $15,200 increase in office and for legal and insurance in that particular department. The big kicker in the expenditure side of the ledger is under the transfer to reserve of $91,000 increase from last month. And this purely relates to the transfer of the $83,200 for the King's Transit Safe Restart moving over to the operating reserve. And then the sale of some recreation equipment has to go into reserve as well until some new equipment is actually purchased. So at this point in time, we're looking at a small surplus position of $35,900. And hopefully we can hang on to that throughout the winter. We're doing pretty good in the month of December so far. And I shouldn't say that because I'll probably jinx it and we'll get a snowstorm. Anyway, that's my report on the projections.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director on that? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Sandra. Deborah, the payment in lieu of taxation, the Federal Reserve payment, Federal Research Farm arrived 21.7 over budget. Why was that?
The federal government assesses its own properties. Well, while Property Valuation Services assesses their property, they assess it as well. And so what I apply for, I tend to discount it somewhat because it's typically less than what our budget is. This year we made out, they actually had some increases in some of their assessments so that we actually ended up with more money than we had budgeted for.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Your Worship. Deb, or the Director Prohl, sorry. I'm just wondering, under office expenses, they're over budget by 109,000. What's that pertain to?
Which department are you looking at? General Administration?
I think so, yeah. I'm on page 49, the top of 49. Office expenses are projecting over budget of 109,000.
Yes, it's related to some legal expenses as well as change in personnel in the administration department.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions for the director on the projection report? All right, moving on to your next report, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. The next one is a resolution for withdrawal from Town Capital Equipment Reserve. The 2021 Town of Kentville capital budget provides for funding of capital equipment acquisitions from the town's capital equipment reserve fund. The details are as followed. Equipment for trucks, the budget from reserve is $73,000 and the ask for draw one is $73,000. The Town of Kentville capital equipment reserve contains $172,920, and after this withdrawal, it will contain $99,920. So I recommend to Council Advisory Committee that the attached resolution be approved for withdrawal of $73,000 from the Town of Kentville capital equipment reserve to fund 2021 transportation equipment acquisitions. And I recommend that this resolution be forwarded to the next meeting of Town Council for ratification.
Thank you, Director. So we take that recommendation and turn it into a motion. So Council Advisory Committee will recommend approval of the withdrawal of $73,000 from the town's capital equipment reserve to fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions to the Town Council for approval on January 25th, 2021. If somebody could move that, please.
So moved.
Councillor Gerard, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the CAC recommend approval of the withdrawal of $73,000 from the town's capital equipment reserve to fund the 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions to the town council for approval on January 25th, 2021. Is there any discussion, or do you have any questions to the director on this matter? All right, are you ready for the question? The question is to recommend approval of the withdrawal of $73,000 from the town's capital equipment reserve to fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions to town council for approval on January 25th, 2021. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
Yes.
And I say yes, the motion is carried unanimously. Director, moving on to the next one.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The next one is the resolution for withdrawal from the town capital reserve, and this is draw number 1. For the same thing applies. The 2021 capital budget provides for partial funding of capital acquisitions from the town's capital reserve fund. Several projects are complete or partially complete and require a resolution of council to withdraw funds. And you can see the details in the chart in my report sent to CAO Smith earlier this month. The total amount from reserve is budgeted at $592,600 for a variety of projects. This draw, I'm asking for a withdrawal of $207,396.16. The town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation contains $1,564,658. And after the withdrawal, it will contain $1,363,698. The town of Kentville Capital Reserve for Recreation purposes contains $39,411. And after this withdrawal, it will contain $32,975. The recommendation is that I recommend to Council Advisory Committee that the attached resolution be approved for withdrawal of $207,396.16 from the following reserves. The town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation, $200,960.01, and the town of Kentville Capital Reserve for Recreation, $6,436.15. These transfers will partially fund several capital acquisitions during the year of 2021, and I recommend that this resolution be forwarded to the next meeting of Town Council for ratification.
Thank you, Director Kroll. So we have a recommendation, which we will turn into a motion, that Council Advisory Committee recommends approval of the withdrawal of $207,396.16 to Town Council for approval on January 25th, 2021 from the following reserves. Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation, $200,960.01. From the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve Recreation, $6,436.15. And these transfers will partially fund several capital acquisitions during the year. If somebody would move that, please. Councillor York, I have you. Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Huntley, I have you. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommend approval of the withdrawal of $207,396.16 to Town Council for approval on January 25th, 2021 from the following reserves. Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation, $200,960.01. And from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve Recreation, $6,436.15. These transfers will partially fund several capital acquisitions during the year 2020-2021. And discussion, I see some hands up. Councillor Gerard, please.
Thank you, Worship. Just wondering, and it might be a question better suited for Director Bedingfield, but the study, the accessibility study, is that something that we've seen before, or is that something new?
I believe this is under recreation. This is Director Bedingfield's accessibility study that is being worked on. I think council was at a workshop along with staff not that long ago.
Did you need more? Sorry, Councilor Gerard, that's correct.
Yeah, sorry. Should it say accessibility?
Accessibility.
Or it's in regards to,
Accessibility, yes, that's correct.
so it's for the new provincial, okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
make everything accessible.
Access.
It's the whole spelling thing. Councillor Savage.
Just so to Councillor Gerard's question, but it's a little different around the accessibility. The difference between the 35 and the 25, is a portion of that being covered by a grant, or is the difference between the two? I had in the back of my mind that there were some grant monies for that.
There are grant monies, I believe, for that project, but bear in mind, this is draw number 1. So I'm trying to fund what we've paid to this
Right
on these projects. So you may see draw number 2 or draw number 3 in order to finalize the project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any further questions for the director on this proposal? Are you ready for the question then? The question is to recommend approval of the withdrawal of $207,396.16 to Town Council for approval on January 25th, 2021 from the following reserves: Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation, $200,960.01. From Town of Kentville Capital Reserve Recreation, $6,436.15. And these transfers will partially fund several capital acquisitions during the year 2020-2021. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
Yes.
And I say yes, the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Director, and Merry Christmas. Enjoy your vacation and see you in the new year.
Exactly. Thank you.
And we're moving on to Planning and Development with Director Gentleman, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon or good evening, Council. You have a copy of my report, so I'll just go over just the main highlights within it. And if you have any additional questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. As we get into the winter seasons, our development permits tend to slow down. For the month of November, we issued 5 development permits for a building valuation of $325,300. which brings us to a year total of just over $20 million, $20,985 worth of construction that's been happening in Kentville. That's great news. 2 zoning certificates were issued. We're working on 2 subdivision applications, and 1 special events permit was issued for the month. So all the other projects, Miners Landing, Crystal's House, are moving along. Stone Mount retirement representatives have finally submitted their application form for their concurrent municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendment. There's lots of things to work out within that application, but that will be coming to CAC in January. We're still waiting for some additional information from them. CAO Smith and I did have a phone conference or Zoom conference with them this month, just to give them an idea of the process and potential timelines they're going to be looking at should this application be approved. We're getting closer to being able to approve the McDougall Heights subdivision plan. There's just a small couple of items that we're waiting for them to get so we can move ahead with their subdivision agreement, and hopefully by the end of this month we'll have that. And we continue to provide services to various departments for mapping services, asset management projects, and things like that. And getting a lot of calls, just curiosity, people looking for land for a number of different developments, housing developments and things like that, we're getting calls on, providing those applicants or those potential people information to help them with their inquiries. But other than that, we're not able to say too much about it until they make submissions with their permits, but Kentville is becoming quite the hotspot, which is kind of exciting. So that's my report. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Girard, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Bev. Sorry, Director, gentlemen. The special events permit. I assume it has to do with the craft stuff at the property up the top of Prospect. I was asked by a couple of people because, of course, a month ago that property was one of our main events on the agenda. What's the criteria that we call a single event? Because people were saying to me there was 2 events a day for 2 days a weekend over 2 separate weekends, and they thought that should be considered 2 events per day, or even one weekend should be an event and another weekend. So what do we use? What do you use as event criteria to say this is 1, this is 2?
Well, typically the main special events that we tend to be looking at for that property tend to be wedding events that start usually on a Thursday and end on a Sunday. The main event being the wedding would happen on a Saturday. In this particular case, it was the first time we ever issued a permit for something outside of the wedding venue aspect of it. And I think initially we thought it was a Saturday and a Sunday event, and thought due to COVID, due to the limited number of people that were attending on a daily basis, we just thought we would help them out and just allow them to move ahead with 1 permit.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Yes, Director, gentlemen, I've had a lot of questions about what's going on across from the fire hall. And so I thought maybe you could just let people know what building's taking place there.
Okay, that is Fagan, Bennett, Menard. Am I saying that right?
Maynard, Benton, Fagan.
And Fagan, yes, it's their new office building. And I think I submitted a month or 2 ago copies of their plans. It's really quite an interesting building. Copy of their plans and what they're building there. If you didn't get it, or you would like to have another copy of the permit and the application, I can certainly send that off to you.
No, I just wanted people to hear from you what
yes,
it was.
okay.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful building. It's going to be stunning when it's done.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Savage. Or Deputy Mayor, sorry.
That's okay. Director, gentlemen, the 3rd building for Miners Landing, when is that projected to be completed?
The exact timeline, I'm not sure.
Just roughly.
We're coming into the winter months. It could take the rest of the winter, but I'm not sure. They're trying to secure it up as quickly as possible, obviously, to get the winter, they can continue to do the work. But if you need a specific date or a little more, a little more information on that, I can find that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any further questions for the director? Oh, Councillor Girard, did you put your hand up again? No, okay, all good then. All right, so we'll move on to the Community and Economic Development. CAO Smith, you were going to speak to this or just answer questions if there were any?
I could speak to it very quickly because I made my top 10 list, so I should do it. Besides which, the police chief just texted that she's planning to join us shortly, or hopes to.
Okay.
So my top 10 are in that report. You'll see the links to the REN. So you have the presentation tonight. You'll see how our town is connected through Lindsay's activity, through economic development. The newsletter is now going out to about 1,500 people. We've had some growth recently. The Center Square survey is ongoing. I think it winds up before Christmas. The gateway signs are here. They're just not in place, but watch for those at the entrance to the town. Two things with KBC, the Holidays Festival you know about, the We Are Kentville ads you're starting to see, I'm sure, as we all are. Lindsay's been helping staff the Mentoring Plus position, and I think that closes on December 18th. I just forget. We're doing that with the Mentoring Plus people. We're doing some support to the Valley Regional Hospital Foundation, a tree project, I think it is. Industrial park land sales, as Bev said, we've had people looking. And finally, the holiday beautification program is either getting underway or will be shortly.
All right, does anyone have any questions for the CAO on that report? There being none, then we shall move right along to Parks and Recreation with Director Bedingfield, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. You all have my report in front of you. I can touch on a few things. The first being the Great Trail. We're officially now our section of the Harvest Moon. I know it's very exciting. It's part of the Great Trail, formerly known as the Trans-Canada Trail, which is still its registered name. So that's kind of a big deal for all you trail lovers. We're now connected to the rest of Canada. It's really exciting. It does mean we have access to some different grants that we didn't have before. It also means that we have national and international bragging rights and publicity. So that's really exciting. Hopefully it'll draw more visitors and more users to our town. I wanted to touch on the COVID response because different municipal and village partners within recreation in the region have different responses whenever there are announcements that are made. And I just wanted to assure everybody, and we've been putting a campaign out there to the public, that we take our jobs and keeping our community really safe, kind of a top priority. And we're following all public health protocols. Kentville, our response has always been a little bit on the strict side when it comes to making sure our community is safe. We do tend to go a little bit above and beyond. So, you know, our decision to continue with things as long as they're safe and allowed within the parameters is very intentional. So if you ever have any questions about what our safety protocols are, please reach out to me. I just wanted to highlight how awesome our Santa cruise was, our first Santa cruise. I saw a lot of you on the road, their trail there. It was pretty great. There's lots of great stories that came out of it. It's our first of a possible annual tradition, I think. This idea of bringing recreation to people versus making people come to us is kind of a really cool way to make these events a lot more accessible. So we're pretty excited about it. We had kids running after us down the street screaming, Santa! Yeah, it was really lovely. I was in one of the elf cars and we got to wave at everybody. So I just wanted to give kudos to Ashley in particular, but certainly Ashley and Lindsay for all the events that happened that night. And of course, KBC. I wanted to highlight, you have in the appendices of my report, the attachment to my report, the results of our annual partner gathering. So this is a check-in that we do every year with our partners, just essentially to say, hey, how are we doing? How are you doing? And what can we do to better serve you? So that's what that document is. You can see that, you know, this year we just asked some really simple ones. Normally we invite people in, give them some lunch, have some really heart-to-heart chats. It's a little bit tricky this year. It was a drop-in one. Everyone left with a pre-wrapped cookie. A little bit different, but we still had a great turnout. And we wanted to know, you know, what's your feedback in terms of what makes a space great, a program great, what's working well, and what are your suggestions? So all that information is in there. And we take that information really seriously. I also want to note that the information that we gathered, we also passed along to the folks who are doing our accessibility plan, so that it's all connected there in terms of getting feedback. And the last piece there is of the accessibility committee. I appreciate that people are calling it Rachel's accessibility plan. It is not, it is the town of Kentville's plan. I will continue to be the staff lead on it, but at the end of the day, we should all be really proud of the work that's being done. I know I certainly am. We are planning, I should have the draft of the final document by the end of the week, knock on wood. CAO Smith and I will take a look at it before it goes out to the committee for review. The committee's going to have over the holidays to review. We'll pull back together over a Zoom call in the new year just to give the final edits, and we should be done the 1st of January. So that's a little bit, sorry, the beginning of January, the first couple weeks, hopefully. That's about 2 or 3 weeks longer than we had originally intended. But to be honest, with everything that's been thrown at us, I'm still pretty proud how close we are sticking to that timeline. And that's everything for me, unless there's questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, and thank you, Director Bedingfield. I just have a couple of questions. I like the idea of the warming hut on the trail, and I was wondering if there's any chance of putting a similar warming hut at the top of Burger Hill for winter use, for parents watching kids tobogganing and so on, going down that hill. If there's any chance that maybe something like that could take place in the near future.
So the background with the Warming Hut initiative didn't actually originate with us. It originated with the design firm PB&J Design, who reached out to us and actually Halifax to see if we wanted to be a part of this project. So they applied to a COA. They had actually applied for us to have 4 warming huts with the intent that they would go along the Harvest Moon Trail, the Great Trail, the Blue Route Trail, whatever you want to call it. We're part of all of those. To encourage active transportation use. When the province didn't come through with their share, ACOA agreed to fund 1 hut, and that's what you see on that trail. So it has to be linked with that. So there is actually no cost to the town to build that structure, which is great. We're giving the land, and if there's any consultation fees that come up, then they'll just come out of my operating budget, which COVID makes everything a lot cheaper because you can do it over Zoom. Yeah, so that's the background with that one. It doesn't mean that there can't be a structure in the future, but it wouldn't be part of this project.
No, maybe somebody might like to sponsor one or something, because I think it would be good.
It'd also be great if the parents could warm up by sledding with their kids.
Well, that would be even better, but yeah, that's something that I think everybody's continuing to work on when it comes to active living. The dog park, is that directly behind Eves Hollow there where I see the land being disturbed?
Yep.
That's where it's going to go? Is there any kind of shelter going to be put there for the sun or anything in the summertime?
So that project probably is going to have to be put into phase 2 and extended over to next year. Within the budget for this year, we're going to be doing some groundwork. And we'll see how far that gets us. It was decided that having a really rough cow pasture wasn't a great place for dogs. We want to smooth that out. But we also want to make sure that it's accessible. So having a nice entry, having a place to sit, those type of things are really key. In the final design piece, there was monies put aside for trees, which would link with that shade, potentially gazebo. We're working with the group to figure out what needs to go in there to make it to make the amenities. The fencing is going to be the biggest cost because there will be a small dog side and a big dog side, and just making sure that everybody has access to that. But yeah, that location was picked just because there's parking really close. You can get off the trail, and it's our land. So it's
perfect. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor York.
The increase in Valley Connect traffic, was that Kentville specific, or is that across Valley Connect as a whole? Because it went up to like 1,500 views, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's a good question. We're only sent the Kentville data. I could find out about that though. I like to think it's because we're really popular, so I just choose not to look anywhere else. But yeah, that's right. But I can look into that because you're right. It would be really interesting. I know that especially during COVID, people were online a lot more looking for opportunities. So I would be shocked if it was up everywhere else. But I will say, in past reports that have come in, when we've been at meetings where we're sharing all the data, Kentville has been on the highest side in terms of searches and things. Great. But I'll look into that. It's interesting.
I'm just curious. Thanks.
Yes,
All right, are there any further questions for the director? If there are none, we will move on to the police chief's report. Chief, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody, and I apologize for joining you late. I actually was out on a call, which is what makes my life kind of fun. Get to get away from the desk for a little while. So in saying that, however, I don't have my reports with me because I forgot to print them off before I left. So I can tell you that our calls are consistent over the last couple months, and we're around 275-ish from month to month, so that's good. Nothing of any concern, no trends or anything that are going on. You should start seeing Operation Christmas checkpoints. The members should be running the checkpoints at nighttime, checking for impaired driving, both by drug and alcohol. With COVID picking up again within the province, we've gone back to a lot more of the teleconference meetings. So we're back meeting chiefs in general and with Dr. Strang and such about what they would like us to do. And again, I will say, I've said it before, that the residents of Kentville, I thank you very much. You have given us very little grief. You continue to abide by Dr. Strang's recommendations and cause us no concern. So again, I thank you for that. And the only other thing is, on the staffing note, you may see some new faces. They were on Facebook last week, and we have one more to come, but we did lose 3 officers to Halifax Regional Police. They chose to move to the big city, but we have 3 in place now and 1 who can't get to us until probably mid-February. He's coming from BC, but we will have 1 more new officer to come in the new year. And that's about all I have, actually.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much. Councillor Maxwell, you have a question?
No.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the chief with regards to her report or anything else? All right, Chief, they're letting you off early, easy tonight. So we'll move on to Engineering and Public Works with Director Bell.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. I think you have my report in front of you, but I'll touch on the highlights and then field any questions you may have. Start with the bridge. Construction of the new bridge, as everyone knows, and the approaches is now complete. The lines are painted, and the removal of the old bridge is nearly complete. They're down to the sort of the old abutments and timber retaining walls today. Upgrades and replacements, sort of minor upgrades to the traffic lights at the Cornwallis-Belcher intersection have been ordered and will be in place just before Christmas. And we've requested some quotes for further upgrades to these aging lights that date back to the original lit intersection back from the 80s. So that'll be done in the budget, or it'll be at least have an option for that in the next fiscal year. Under capital works projects, both Mid-Valley's construction work on East Main Street is now complete. The new sidewalk has greatly improved the pedestrian and snow removal safety of that section, and it looks, I think, looks fantastic. And Howard Little's projects for the 2020 capital works year are also now complete, with a few minor landscaping deficiencies to be completed in the spring of 21. Kentville Water Commission, the first stage of our asset management cohort workshop is nearly complete. We have had 4 in-person sessions, and our final one will be actually tomorrow via Zoom. That will wrap things up. And during the stage, we have focused on our water utility, which is one of our certainly our most vast and valuable assets. But in the next few years, we'll be focusing on other assets, such as our sanitary sewer system, storm system, streets and sidewalks, facilities, parks and trails. So that it's a multi-year process to get all these things sort of into a format that's recognized by the province and the feds for so we can help us budget for things and also apply for funding based on how they want that done. So that's it was a great program, and that's nearly complete for this first phase. Under sanitary sewer, everything is operating normal with no events to report. And with winter works, our public works fleet is all serviced and ready for snow and ice control, and the shed is full of salt. The long-term forecast looks pretty good for December, so hopefully, as Deb mentioned, we'll escape any big expenditures this month, and but we know we'll eventually have some snow. One thing I didn't include in the report was a little update on Town Hall, downstairs renovations. The finance reception improvements are coming along nicely. The desks are in place, and much of the electrical work is done. Painting is taking place now, and that'll be cleaned up this week. So we're getting close to wrapping that project up. Waiting on glass, which is always a holdup. Usually that needs to go away and get tempered. So we're probably a week or two away from having the glass in place, but it's looking really nice downstairs. Everyone seems to be happy with the improvements, and that is my report. I guess meetings and events, I can touch on that. You see that on my report. We had the AIM network November, and Regional Sewer Committee meeting in late November. And thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Would appear there's a couple of questions for you. Councillor Gerard, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Bell, thank you. I have two questions. One's very quick and easy.
Sure.
The new truck, is it going to be black? I really like that black Public Works truck with the Kentville emblem on it, or is it going to be blue? Oh, it's going to be blue, isn't it? I can tell by your face.
There's no new truck planned right now. I think what you're seeing, or what I'm assuming what Deb had there in that transfer, was the trucks that we purchased last spring.
Okay.
So
which were black. Good.
Don't say that to any of our branding officers. That truck was not intended to be black, but it was the only thing that was in stock. And with being in the middle of COVID, we would have waited 6 months to get a blue truck, a navy truck. But the norm is set out is navy, but black was what we had to go with at the time. So.
And my second question is, I think, one that's been on everyone's mind today, the last couple of days,
right?
The corner at Webster,
mm-hmm.
and the buses.
Yep. No, it is a question. I've had several conversations with John Saunders. He's the one of the operation managers with King's Transit. I guess when he first told me, I was a little surprised, because the first parking stalls are 35 feet back from the intersection. And he says, normally there's not an issue, but if there are large vehicles parked in both of those stalls, the first one on the north side, the first one on the south side, they feel sometimes it's nip and tuck for them to make that movement. They certainly haven't hit anything, but they were concerned, with that they may. I mean, even the old layout of Webster Street, they used to always rub on the actual traffic light on the north corner. So that's been improved by the realignment of the curb. But for the last week or so, they have been going around town. Instead of making the turn, they've been going straight toward the liquor store, going around the loop once more to come at the street straight on. So in the short term, speaking with the King's Transit, they're going to go down River Street as they come across the bridge and are heading west out of town. They're going to have a stop on River Street between the Legion and the theater, and then another stop at the end of River Street. And in the new year, we're going to meet on site with their lead safety committee guy, and he's also one of their more experienced drivers, and make that turn with everybody on site, make sure that it's clear. If we need to adjust the parking stalls forward a little bit, there is room to do that. That's the most, in my opinion, that needs to be done, is if we have to do a little repainting in the new year. But that's the plan now, is to meet in the new year once the holiday rush is over. That was his suggestion, and in the short term, they're going to do as I mentioned, just basically a new route around River Street to avoid that corner. it's most of the times they're fine. It's just when there are 2 vehicles, and if they're large vehicles on those stalls. So that's
Okay. Thank you.
That's the answer, Councillor Gerard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, Director Bell. Just a couple of questions. Councillor Gerard stole my one about the King's Transit change, but that's okay. The other one I have a couple more, but one that kind of aligns with that was, and I think I had sent this off to CAO Smith. I was coming back from a run one morning. It was around 10 a.m. and it was during the week. And there was a truck parked there on Webster. Luckily on the right-hand side, there was nobody parked in the parking spots. So the local traffic was able to go around the truck that I think was probably delivering to Patty's and Rosie's. So I'm just wondering if there's been any thought around perhaps people can't park in those spots between certain hours of the day when deliveries are being done. I know there's probably a lot of dynamics around that, and it's tough to do, but.
No, that's exactly what's being, and has always been discussed was, and actually the signs I believe are now ordered. Those stalls that are between the back of Patty's where they do unload and the little financial place at I think that's 92 Webster. There's 3 or 4 stalls in total there, excluding the barrier-free one, that will be posted as a loading zone. Say I think the midnight to 9 a.m. Patty's take 99% of their deliveries before 9, and I know that's why I think CAO Smith had asked you what time that was when you were out for your run. I was surprised to see that it was that late in the morning when he was parked basically in the middle of the street, which is ridiculous. Certainly, that's certainly a moving violation and can't be doing that. But
I may have been running earlier, probably before my work day started, but who knows?
I think you replied that it was 10 or 10:30, and it surprised me, but it did look busy. You could see down, or the way you took the picture, you could see down Webster Street down towards Finney's, and it did look busy. It looked like it was mid-morning, like 10 or so. But certainly that's going to be the time, and the only time that Patty's in those places can take deliveries. But it will limit the regular parking in those stalls from midnight to 9 a.m. and then from then on, when those businesses are open, it'll be regular parking stalls.
Okay.
That's how we're addressing the issue for sure.
Yeah, great. 2 more really quick questions.
Sure.
The asset management plan,
yes,
being multi-year, how long do we actually have to complete that plan in its entirety?
I don't believe there's a deadline necessarily. We will be doing more modules likely with the AIM network, but we focused on our water asset being our biggest and the biggest asset, and the sort of being the first module, figured it was going to cost us the most. They had also had the more funds available, being the Water Commission, so that's why we went that route.
Right.
But the next ones we will likely do storm and sanitary together, or a few things like that. But it'll be a 2 or 3 year process to do everything out. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think I'll leave my 3rd question because I see Councillor Maxwell's hand up, and I think she's going to ask the same thing that I'm going to ask.
Let her have that one. Okay.
Yep, I'll let her have that one.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Just see. Hi, Director Bell. I was just a further follow-up to my email to you and CAO Smith about the crosswalk poles. Now, you did say there were upgrades coming to those ones down at the corner of Belcher and Cornwall Street. I'm wondering if those will have arrows telling people which buttons to push, because there's an awful lot of people that can't figure out
the pedestrians,
which button they're supposed to push. And then further to that, I was stopped by a couple that had recently moved here from Halifax, and I believe they said they lived on Elm Street, and they were kind of surprised that they couldn't push the button going from south to north on Southview and Elm. And so I went and had a look, and if they were coming, on the west side of the pole, indeed, it looked like there was no button there. But if they were coming from the east side of the pole, the button was around at the opposite side of the pole. So what they had been doing was dodging traffic to get across the road to go to the north. So I'm wondering, can we, make some signs or something that says the button's on the other side? It's across.
It's a pole, walk around it till you find it. No, I understand the question. It is, I noticed that too. I think it's on the east side, faces New Minas, does it not? Yeah. So
yeah, it is.
I don't know. That's certainly the norm, is for it to be on a side where you're crossing, not on the face of the pole where you would be going the other way. But it is an interesting thing with the ones at Belcher and Cornwallis. All, I think 10 or 12, all the buttons are being replaced under this program. They're the minor cost. The two of the bigger lights, one's been down now for several months, and the other one of the other ones is original from the 80s. They're being replaced, like I said, this month, as well as all the buttons. So the buttons will have an arrow. My understanding will have an arrow with them pointing, so that, because it is confusing, I agree, certainly at the traffic lights. I don't know what we can do at the push button ones like on Southview, other than have a sign. But
well, if we can make a little metal plaque with a black dot on it and go other side, it might solve the problem. But I can understand it with people just moving here and not being able to figure out what's going on. So
those ones all only have one button, and it's a round pole. But I think once they get used to it, it's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Muted, Sandra.
Deputy Mayor?
Okay, she didn't ask, so I'll ask really quickly. I know that there's been a little bit of discussion around the bridge and the lack of lighting around that bridge. It really is pretty dark, and I know that you know that, and I know that it's a province-owned bridge, and I know putting lighting on it is probably very, very expensive. Would the province have any consideration around that, or?
The old concepts that I saw certainly before I was at the town, had lights on the bridge. Now, I don't know at what point they were cut or removed, but there were lights sort of on where the big balls are now at the end of each bridge, and each end of the bridge rather, showed lights. I don't know if that was going to light up the bridge as much as it was to light the ends, but that they didn't happen for whatever reason, cuts or whichever, because I know they certainly spent more on other things like moving power lines and things than they ever dreamt they were going to. But that was mistakes or oversights on their part. It is their bridge, but we can find out, I guess, what can be done. If they won't, what can we do, and at least get some prices that we can talk about it with real numbers and budget for it in future year.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
For sure. No, thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. This came up at the accessibility committee level, and I think it is one of the things that we need to pursue from that point of view. And Director Bedingfield may be able to speak to that a little bit. I think we were going to try to address it through that route with the province. Dr. Bedingfield?
The lights, you mean?
Yeah, something to do with lighting, because it is unsafe, it's not accessible, and it's not our bridge, and it's a provincial policy that they should be accessible. So
yeah, I think Director Bell, we had talked a little bit about that at senior management, but just the idea of we have this accessibility legislation that the province now has in place, and so if there's ways to move through that channel to support the province stepping up to create a more accessible bridge, we can figure that out. Yeah.
All right, looks like all the questions are done, so we'll move on to the CAO's report.
Thank you. Sorry, just getting unmuted. In the middle of all that, I had to start the ukulele meeting. Don't ask me why, but I did. My report is there, and I think it's reasonably straightforward and summarized really from the weekly reports that I provide to council. But the important things, of course, for me right now are CAO recruitment, which is progressing quite well. In fact, I need to track down the selection committee tomorrow if I can at some point. We'll talk about that later. The other thing is this Friday, the King's CAOs group have been working with their counterparts in Annapolis Royal, Middleton, and West Hants on a report dealing with our intermunicipal services agreements. And we hope to have members of council, those that are available, take part in a meeting on Friday at 1 o'clock by Zoom. And I've sent that invitation forward to you this evening. So I think that's it. And I can take any questions so that you have. Okay.
Are there any questions for the CAO? Councillor Maxwell. You're on mute.
Thank you. Just a follow up to the addition on the minutes here on the report on the 6 letters that we had from correspondence last time.
Yep.
Will we be able to get that by our next meeting? Because I think it's important that our citizens hear back from us and get some kind of response from council on those issues that they presented to council.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I did take advantage of the fact that we have 2 CACs before the next council meeting. I had to draw a line in the sand and concentrate on recruitment last week. So those reports, so I'm hoping for some of them, they are budget issues. So we'll be replying that we'll refer to the budget process. But I think between Dave and I, the letters that were in November correspondence, we'll try to crank out a report for January CAC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the CAO? All right, if there's no further questions on that, you have the monthly communications report, and I think it's fairly self-explanatory unless there's any queries. All right, so we've received all of the reports. If we could have a motion to accept the staff reports as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. And Councillor York, I have you for the second. It has been moved and seconded that staff reports be accepted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. We have no unfinished business. However, we do have correspondence, and CAO, if you could review the correspondence with council and provide details of further action.
Can do. The first piece of correspondence is from the Community Alcohol Partnership, or CAP. This group has been active in our community since 2015, and they're writing to do 2 things: to say they'd like council to be aware of their work. If there is any member of council that would like to volunteer to go to one of their meetings, that would be appreciated. Failing that, I think the suggestion implicit in their letter is that we invite them to come to CAC at some point and make a presentation so we can all share in what it is they do. And so if council's agreeable, I'll work with Jennifer and we will try to schedule them to come at a future CAC.
Good.
Okay,
all right.
So that's that one. The second one is a letter signed by a number of residents on Mitchell Avenue. And they have fairly strong concerns. We've heard them at the staff level a couple of times recently about having a second exit at the end of the street, the end by the trail for emergencies. And as staff, we haven't been encouraging that because we have the water facility down there and we have a very steep grade and a few things like that. So I think we need to do a little report on this and bring it back to council. And part of that report will speak to the fire department about these concerns in terms of emergency access, and see if we can provide some information back to council about that.
Councillor Maxwell, did you have a question with regards to?
Yes, I do. I have had several discussions with people on Mitchell Avenue about their concerns. They're very concerned there, and they're actually quite afraid that if something happens, you know, if there's an emergency, then they're trapped there. And I was just thinking, we have a regional emergency measures regional director, Dan Stovall, and I'm just wondering if, you know, it might allay their concerns if we asked him to go and take a look at that situation from an emergency standpoint and give us some feedback on what that organization would recommend.
We can certainly include them. I would like to start with the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department because they would be the feet on the ground under direction from Remo. But certainly I can include Dan in that ask for questions and see what's out there. But as I say, I want to talk to the fire chief because they would be the ones first to respond in the event of emergency and see what planning they may have done in terms of that street and emergency access. So by all means, Dan Stovall is a good suggestion. Yeah.
That's good. And because I think that site has changed a bit since the last time we looked at it with, there's many more storage, propane storage canisters there than I think there used to be. And so I think this is a legitimate concern, and I would look at all those avenues.
Yeah, well, certainly it's not something I know much about. It would be a fire and emergency response question. Yeah, so we'll try to get that information and bring it back to council. And they can consider it and consider the budget impact if they were to do something different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that's that item. The next one is the Municipal Energy Learning Group recommendations. And there's been an organization in Nova Scotia of municipal people interested in municipal energy practices and energy saving and all that kind of stuff. And they've been meeting regularly, and we've kept kind of a watching brief. We haven't been directly involved, but through Jennifer and others, we've kept a watching brief on it. And they had some recommendations that they wanted to have referred to the provincial government. And it looks like something we might be interested in, but we're just going to suggest that you receive it as correspondence, and we'll get a staff report done and bring it back to you, and see whether we might have council endorse the recommendations. The province is developing an energy strategy right now, as I understand it, and they're looking for municipal input. So this is a vehicle that we may be able to use, but we'll come back to you with something more concrete.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. And for our minutes, if we could just have the statement that the CAO or that CAC has directed the CAO to provide staff reports at a future CAC meeting as detailed here. Thank you. All right, we move on now to our new business. And again, I'm going to hand it off to you, CAO. If you could give us a little chat here on this one.
Yeah, thank you. And I may get Jennifer to back me up on anything because she's the one that knows more about this than I do. But essentially, early last year, I think it was, no, sorry, early this year, collectively, we started partnering with Wolfville, Berwick, and the county on a regional climate change strategy. And as part of that, there was a pitch made for senior government funding. The senior government funding has been found, but there is a catch. And the catch is that we must join something called Partners for Climate Progress. This organization under FCM, it used to be called Partners for Climate Protection, PCP. It's been called PCP since 1994. And in several different jobs, I've encountered PCP and municipalities that are part of it. Kentville never has been, But with this regional climate initiative, this joint initiative, it looks like we can join. It's one of those things almost like the, I want to say beautiful towns thing, but the gardening thing where you develop a plan and then over time you implement the plan. I believe this municipality will have to do this kind of thing regardless. We have the recommendation in motion here that we'd like you to consider on joining PCP. And it is kind of a catch-22. We are required to do this as part of completing the work program that is going to be funded by the $60,000. We have to kick in $5,000 of that, but it's quite a bit of leverage there. Plus, there are permanent staff in Wolfville and the county that are assigned to this file. Jennifer and Rachel have been helping us cover it for Kentville. Jennifer, do you have anything to add to what I've said?
No, you've covered it really well. Thank you.
Okay, good. So Your Worship, I think you've drafted 2 motions there that we would like to present and see if we can get approval of.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. So I'll just go through the FCM resolution. It's provided for you in the report, whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, and the ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, have established the Partners for Climate Protection, PCP program, to provide a forum for municipal governments to share their knowledge and experience with other municipal governments on how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Whereas over 350 municipal governments across Canada represent more than 65% of the population, have already committed to reducing corporate and community greenhouse gas emissions through the PCP program since its inception in 1994. Whereas the PCP program is based on 5 milestone framework that involves completing a greenhouse gas inventory and forecasting, setting a greenhouse gas reduction target, developing a local action plan, and implementing the plan and monitoring progress, reporting results. Be it resolved that the municipality of the town of Kentville review the guidelines on PCP member benefits and responsibilities and then communicate to FCM and ICLEI Canada its participation in the PCP program and its commitment to achieving the milestones set out in the PCP 5 milestone framework. Be it further resolved that the municipality of the town of Kentville appoint the following: a corporate staff person, and that would be Director Bedingfield, Director of Parks and Recreation, and an elected official to be named. So think about if you want to have this on your portfolio. So if we take that, the motion would read: the Council Advisory Committee recommends the adoption and signing of the FCM Joint Resolution for Partners for Climate Progress Program to Council at the January 25th, 2021 meeting of Council. If I could have someone move that, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. I have you down. And a seconder, Councillor Huntley, I have you for that one. It has been moved and seconded that Council Advisory Committee recommend the adoption and signing of the FCM joining resolution for Partners for Climate Progress Program to Council at the January 25th, 2021 meeting of Council. Is there any discussion? Is there anybody who really wants to be the green person and be part of this? You can speak now. Otherwise, it's one of those things that we'll be looking at in the new year. So think if you want to be part of this. If there is no discussion, the question is that Council Advisory Committee recommend the adoption and signing of the FCM joining resolution for Partners for Climate Progress Program to Council at the January 25th, 2021 meeting of Council. Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabia?
Yes.
I say yes, the motion is carried unanimously. And our second motion on that one is is a matter of earmarking those funds in next year's budget so that Council Advisory Committee recommend the pre-approval of a $5,000 line item in the 2021-2022 budget. Kentville's share in support of the FCM Partners for Climate Progress Program $60,000 grant to council at the January 25th, 2021 meeting of council. Someone could move that, please. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that Council Advisory Committee recommend the pre-approval of a $5,000 line item in the 2021-2022 budget. Kentville's share in support of the FCM Partners for Climate Progress Program $60,000 grant to council at the January 25th, 2021 meeting of council. Is there any discussion? Councillor Girard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious, the $5,000 buy-in, is that 5,000 across the board, or is that again based on population?
No, it's 5,000
for everyone.
There is some cost sharing, and I think Jennifer, today we talked about it. I think it's a fairly simple one, that ours is 5, Berwick's might be less, and Wolfville's is probably 5. I'm not sure.
Are you ready for the question? The question is that Council Advisory Committee recommend the pre-approval of the $5,000 line item in the 2021-2022 budget. Kentville's share in support of FCM Partners for Climate Progress Program $60,000 grant to council at the January 25th, 2021 meeting of council. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Girard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
Yes.
I say yes, the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're getting down on our agenda. So we do have confidential business, which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda item. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for adjournment of this meeting, nor of our special council meeting. So if we can have a motion to move into the closed session to discuss the agenda items. Councillor Girard, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council move into a closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried and the time is 8:01.